What's going on, everyone? Josh with Old School Cards, and we have a great podcast episode number 15 coming at you for this week. We're getting ready for the Four Nations tournament. We're following our traditional show lineup, leading off with market thoughts. Number 2 is 600 goal scorer history. Got a nice one for you today there. Blue liner of the week, couple repeat players from different parts of this year. Milestone markers, chasing greatness, the Alex Ovechkin update, and we're going to talk about my personal pickups for the week. I hope you guys had a great week. I hope you guys are excited for this show, so let's get right into it. First portion of the show is our market thoughts portion, and this is a portion of the show where I talk about different things in the hobby and the league for how things go for different topics. This week, because of all the trades that took place, I wanted to talk about 1A and 1B players on teams. So what do I mean by 1A or 1B players? McDavid and Draisaitl, 1A, 1B. McKinnon and Rantanen, 1A, 1B. And that's kind of where our focus is going to be today, the Rantanen trade, because I wanted to talk about how things are going to affect his hobby market and maybe moving out of the limelight from the shadow of Nathan McKinnon might benefit Mikko Rantanen and the hobby market, so the people who collect him can maybe breathe a sigh of relief. But we are talking McKinnon, Rantanen, Draisaitl, McDavid, Matthews and Marner. Previously, it would have been someone like Taves and Kane. Those types of tandems on teams with high expectations, but you have two legit superstars where one person kind of takes the reins and the other person ends up just being put in the back seat. So quite a few trades have happened this week. You have the Sharks and the Stars making some moves where the Stars pick up Granlund. He's easily going to go probably to the top of their scoring in Dallas, even though Dallas is a contending team. Granlund's a pretty good player. But I still think that the Stars need to address defensive issues with guys like Miro Heiskanen going to be sidelined for a while. However, one thing that is very, very good for them is the fact that I haven't looked, and don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure they have the best penalty kill in the NHL. Those guys, when they give up a penalty and they have to go on the PK, they're very good at not giving up goals on the penalty kill. So that's going to help their depth going into the playoffs and making a deep playoff run. But the topic for today, and we're going to use the Rantanen trade as something we're going to look at, just because Rantanen is the key player that I've been watching. There was JT Miller got traded from the Canucks back to the Rangers, but his cards, he doesn't really have a very strong card market. Whereas Rantanen, his market's a little stronger. The problem is he's been playing with McKinnon. So prior to the trade, his PSA 10 was going for, on average, around $100. He got traded to Carolina, and in the last week or so, his PSA 10 prices have gone up about 45%. So since the trade, he's had 4 cards. He had 4 cards sell on January 25th for an average of $127 each. So that's up $27, but it was 4 cards. And then 1 card on the 26th sell for $140. That's a PSA 10 Rantanen. Now, why is that important? Well, I personally would think that Colorado has a stronger hobby market in hockey than Carolina does, just because Colorado is more of a, it's viewed more as a cold state. What do I mean by that? They get more snow, they have the mountains, you have Denver. People think of Colorado as a place that's colder than the Carolinas. People would expect hockey to be good there, and they have been good there. They've recently won a Stanley Cup compared to Carolina. However, Rantanen goes from playing in the shadow of Nathan MacKinnon, where his PSA 10 prices are $100 on average, to Carolina, where he may very well be the superstar, and his PSA 10 prices are already reflecting that. And I don't know if it's just the needle moving because of the move, or if it's going to be something that if he sustains his success, but he steps out of the shadows of a superstar player and becomes one of his own, does it bring up his prices in the long run? And that's something that we need to think about or look at for long-term holding of players that we like. Another move that I would be very interested to see would be somebody like Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid splitting up. Would it be good for the game? I don't know, but they're basically on two separate lines anyway. And Leon Draisaitl, he leads the league in goals, and he's up there every year. The guy has 4 50-goal seasons, and he does get hobby love because he's in Edmonton, but he's in the shadow of Connor McDavid. So if Draisaitl were to go somewhere else, or if Edmonton were to move Connor McDavid for him to go somewhere else, I think that gives Draisaitl card prices room to breathe, where he can become his own superstar, because essentially he is. He is his own superstar. But everybody wants to talk about Connor McDavid. But Connor McDavid is not the guy leading the league in goals scored. It's Leon Draisaitl. And same thing with Rantanen. Rantanen's not the guy leading the league in points. It's Nathan MacKinnon. But when you separate them, it gives their star power and ability to shine. I don't know if it's a good thing for... I think it's a good thing for the hobby. I don't know if it's a good thing for the hockey team, because having two of those guys on the same team are phenomenal. And the real issue with the Rantanen trade was that Rantanen felt like he should be making more money than what Colorado was willing to pay him. His contract was up at the end of the year, and they were not willing to pay him more than what Nathan MacKinnon is making, so they traded him to get a return back, which makes sense. It's perfect financial business sense. Like, hey, we're not going to be able to pay what this guy wants, so let's get something for him in return so he doesn't just walk and we lose him for nothing. But maybe he's worth the money. Or if he goes to a team where he can elevate them and his star status can breathe, maybe then that team will say, hey, we don't care about that. We'll pay you the money. And he'll get the money that he's looking for. So it's something definitely to keep an eye on, and I'm interested to see what is going to happen with Rantanen prices over the next 6 months. I'm pretty certain that Carolina's probably going to make the playoffs, so we're going to get an opportunity to see what Rantanen can do in the playoffs without MacKinnon on his own. He's already contributing. He's already putting up points in Carolina, so it's going to be a fun thing to watch. And it would be really fun to see other teams kind of follow suit and see what these guys do. I would love to see a Draisaitl and McDavid split where Draisaitl goes somewhere and he gets to be the 1A or something like that. Almost like, it was kind of like Stamkos and Kucherov in Tampa Bay. I know Stamkos is at the end of his career, but he's a pretty prolific scorer. Now that he's in Nashville, Kucherov is the guy in Tampa Bay, and people are clamoring for him there. Now, the market, it may not be super strong, but they did win 2 cups. So Kucherov is another interesting. They kind of led the way, and I didn't pull up Kucherov's stats to see how any of his card prices have changed, but essentially it's kind of the same thing, except for it wasn't done in a trade where people are all hearing about it. So that's the end of the first segment. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you think. Send me an email, oldschoolcards24@gmail.com. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are about that. And we're going to move right into the second portion of the show, 600 goal scorer history. So hang tight. We'll be right with you on that. All right, guys. Here we are. We're going with 600 goal scorer history. Today we're talking Marcel Dionne, the 5'9", 190-pound player that was originally drafted by the Detroit Red Wings and spent most of his career with an abysmal Los Angeles Kings team. He got we're talking 600 goal scorer history, so we're going to talk about his 600th goal first. He does have over 700 goals in his career, but we're going to talk 600 goals first since that's the title of this segment. He scored his 600th goal December 16th, 1984 in a 6-5 win for the LA Kings over the Calgary Flames. Here's another example of guys who put pucks in the net and their team wins, and we're starting to see a real trend of this guy scored 600th goal and they won. He was drafted second overall in the 1971 draft by the Detroit Red Wings, and he played 18 NHL seasons. Throughout his 18 NHL seasons, Marcel Dionne played in 1,348 games. He scored 731 goals, one of only 5 players in the 700-goal range. He had 1,040 assists with 1,771 points, 1,771 points, and he finished his career at a plus 27, which is the lowest one we've seen, but it probably has a lot to do with the team that he played on. Some of the awards that he's won in his career: he won the Art Ross one time, 2 Lady Byng trophies, 1 Lester Patrick trophy, and 2 Lindsay Award trophies, which is the award that the NHL players vote for the best player in the league. So it's not the Hart, it's not the MVP, it's voted on by the players. His career, we mentioned, spanned 18 years. He played 4 years in Detroit. He played parts of 12 seasons with the LA Kings. In his 12th season, which was 1986-1987, he was traded to the New York Rangers, where he played parts of 3 seasons. So he played 2 full years with the Rangers, plus 14 games in the 86-87 season. He played 11 full years with the Kings, plus 67 games in 86 and 87. Where does Marcel Dionne stack up? He doesn't get a whole lot of love, guys. He's 6th all-time in the NHL in points with 1,771. He's 6th all-time in goals with 731. And he's 12th all-time in assists with 1,040. He averaged 1.31 points per game in his career. And the most famous thing he's probably known for is that he is the highest scoring player in the NHL to have never won a Stanley Cup, which is probably why his hobby market isn't great. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 1992. He had 8 100-point seasons. He had 13 30-goal seasons, 10 40-goal seasons, and 6 50-goal seasons. And 5 of those 50-goal seasons were consecutive. His best season was the 1979-1980 season when he played with the Los Angeles Kings. In that season, he scored 53 goals. He had 84 assists for a total of 137 points in 80 games played. His best game of his career came on January 11th, 1983, When he's playing for the LA Kings against the Washington Capitals, in that game, he scored 6 points. He had 3 goals and 3 assists. So a 6-point game is the best game that Marcel Dion ever had. And he is our topic person for 600 goal history this week. I hope you guys enjoyed learning a little bit about him. And he's not going to be, or right now is not going to be the last time we hear about Marcel Dion in this podcast. He will come up again later, and you guys will get to see what we're talking about. Now we're moving into the third segment of the show. It's the Blue Liner of the Week from January 26, 2025 to February 1st, 2025. And this week, we have 2 defenders who are on the list for they're not making their first appearance on the list this year. Number 1, Jake Sanderson of the Ottawa Senators. He was a 2020 first-round draft pick taken 5th overall by Ottawa. This week, he scored 7 points with 2 goals and 5 assists. He was credited with no hits, but 3 blocked shots, and he averaged 23 minutes and 11 seconds time on ice. So Jake Sanderson is really coming into his own as a top-tier defender in the NHL. This is the second time I believe he's made the list this year. And now we get to talk about his rookie card, his Upper Deck Young Guns card. He's a 2022-2023 Upper Deck Series 2 Young Guns, card number 466. His PSA 10 averages over the last 90 days $46.04, and he's had 19 sales over the last 90 days, with the last sale coming on January 26th, 2025 for $41.16, so just under the average. The card, the stats on the card, he has 1,120 cards graded with PSA, so good sample size. PSA 10s, 546. PSA 9s, which are the cards that I collect, 426. And his gem rate is 48.8%. So Jake Sanderson is our number 1 blue liner of the week, scoring 7 points. That's the most we've had in a few weeks. And number 2 is a guy who's been on this list. I think this is his 3rd time this year. It's Quinn Hughes of the Vancouver Canucks. So we're going to recap his stuff real quick. 2018 first round, 7th overall by the Vancouver Canucks. This week he scored 5 points with no goals and 5 assists. He was credited with 1 hit but no block shots. And he averaged 24 minutes and 9 seconds time on ice per game. Once again, he is a 2019-2020 Upper Deck Series 1 card number 249. His PSA 10 over the last 90 days is going for about $178 per transaction, and he's had 87 transactions over the last 90 days, and the last sale was on February 1st, 2025 for $160, so a little bit under his PSA 10 average. He has 5,219 cards graded with PSA, and 3,264 of those cards have graded PSA 10s, while 1,679 of those cards have graded PSA 9s, and his gem rate is pretty fair at 62.5% with PSA. So we have talked before about Quinn Hughes possibly being considered the second best defender in the NHL behind Cale Makar. I know Cale Makar has done a lot of great things in Colorado, but I think it's worth noting that over the past few weeks, Makar has not made the list while Quinn Hughes has. And then Jake Sanderson has made the list a couple times. So I'm not saying that Cale Makar maybe not be the best defenseman in the NHL. I think most people would agree that if they could take any defenseman in the NHL, they would take Cale Makar. But certainly some of these players are definitely making strides towards being considered for a top 5 NHL defenseman, or depending on what you're trying to do, that they can match up well, especially when it comes to contributing points-wise. Quinn Hughes, every time he's made the list, he's usually more assists than goals, but he's contributing. That means he's feeding the puck to a guy who is scoring the goal. Jake Sanderson, he had a couple goals this week, but 7 points and 5 points respectively are pretty good. And this is the first time in the last 3 weeks that it was definitive. There was a clear number one and a clear number two. They each only played 3 games this week. So Jake Sanderson, 7 points in 3 games. That's pretty good. And Quinn Hughes, 5 points in 3 games. So that's really good. But those are our 2 blue liners of the week. I hope you guys enjoy that. Take the information for what it is. And we'll be moving here shortly into the next portion of the show. All right, we are back with the milestone marker portion of the show. And this week, I wanted to talk about a guy who's just kind of always been near and dear to my heart. He's never played for my favorite team or anything like that, but I just really enjoy him, and I would be remiss to not discuss what happened for him this week. And it's Marc Andre Fleury. Marc Andre Fleury has been a great person, a great individual in the game of hockey. He's done great things as a goalie, and we're going to talk about all of that. But he's made it pretty definitive that he's going to retire at the end of this year. He's pretty much come out and said, hey, this is it. This is my swan song. And I saw a headline this week that said that he was getting a little emotional because he was going to be playing most likely his last game at the Bell Center in Montreal, Canada. Why is it important? Well, Marc Andre Fleury is from that area. He grew up going to Canadiens games, all of that. And so on January 30th, 2025, Marc Andre Fleury played his final game at the Bell Center in Montreal. He recorded a 19-save shutout in his final game at the Bell Center. The Minnesota Wild won that game 4-0, and it was Marc Andre Fleury's 76th shutout of his career. What does that mean as far as milestone markers goes? Well, with recording his 76th shutout of his career, he became the first goalie in NHL history with a shutout as a teenager and over the age of 40 in his career. He tied 10th all-time in shutouts, so he's 10th all-time in career shutouts now with 76. It also gave him his 572nd win of his career, which makes him second all-time, only behind Martin Brodeur. So, it was a milestone game. Even though it was an emotional game, it was also a milestone game. Marc Andre Fleury has played in 1,043 games in the NHL with 572 wins, 76 shutouts, and his goals against average is 2.6, but his career save percentage is .912. So, what the numbers, I actually looked at the stats for what he's at this season and his career numbers, and they're almost exactly the same. I think his goals against average is still right around 2.6, and his career and his season save percentage is like .908. So even over the age of 40, he's still meeting his career numbers. He was a 2003 first overall pick by the Pittsburgh Penguins. He was only the third goalie ever to be drafted number 1 overall. And Pittsburgh was very wise to do so because they brought him in, and he is also a 3-time Stanley Cup champion, a 1-time Vezina Trophy winner, and a 1-time Jennings Trophy winner. He is only the second player to have 20 10-win seasons, tying him with Martin Brodeur all time. He is third all time in the NHL in games played at goalie. Brodeur is first with 1,266, and Roberto Luongo is second with 1,044 games. So, it's highly likely that Marc Andre Fleury, before the end of the season, will pass Roberto Luongo, as he is at 1,043. So he is right behind Roberto Luongo for games played. So by the end of his career, Marc Andre Fleury should be second all-time in games played at goalie, which will keep him in line with second all-time behind Brodeur in wins. So that was Marc Andre Fleury's week. He's been a pleasure to watch in his career. I know we still have a few games left in the season, but I love the guy. I always have. I thought he was a class act during the expansion draft, and they built that Vegas Golden Knights team around him, and he stood up to the challenge. As a matter of fact, when he won his Vezina trophy, it was with the Vegas Golden Knights, and they still traded him. But that's just the type of guy he is. He is one of probably the best guys in the NHL. One of the best. And I'm going to miss watching him play. And I would like to, before it's all over, collect some of his cards. I do not have a Young Guns of his that I would like to get my hands on one of those. But this one kind of, I don't want to say gets me a little emotional, but it is going to be sad to not be able to watch him play anymore after he retires this year. And I wish him nothing but the best in the future, and I hope he stays in the game somehow. He's a big-time contributor both on and off the ice to the NHL and to the game of hockey, and we're lucky to be able to watch him play throughout his career, and he's done a ton of great things on the ice, but he's also been a really great person off the ice. So that's this week's portion of Milestone Marker. We're talking Marc Andre Fleury, and I wish him nothing but the best through the end of the season. All right, guys, now we are moving into the Chasing Greatness portion of the show, and we had a little uptick in the Alex Ovechkin chase for the great one in the all-time goal-scoring record. Alex Ovechkin scored 2 goals this week. His last one came on February 1st, 2025 against the Winnipeg Jets. He is now at 877 total goals and 17 behind Wayne Gretzky for tying the record, 18 to pass. I said last week he was going to need to score more than 1 goal a week if he wanted to get it done this year. And he turned around this week and turned in a 2-goal performance. So not only did he have 2 goals this week, but he also had 2 assists in his last 3 games. So he's making a move. He needs to keep up that pace if he wants to catch Gretzky by the end of the year. The commentators made a comment that he needs a 2-goal game or a 3-goal game, a hat trick, to really kind of set the tone for trying to break the record this year. I don't disagree with them. 1 goal a week isn't going to get him there, so 2 goals a week is a move in the right direction. It should be noted that even though Alex Ovechkin is the greatest or most prolific power play goal scorer that we've ever seen, he leads. He holds the career record for power play goals scored. Only one of his 2 goals came on the power play, so he had 5-on-5. He had a 5-on-5 goal this week, which is good because he's going to need some of that. Just can't be trying to nail it on the power play. And he only averaged, I think, he didn't play very much this last week of ice time. So being able to get in there, get his job done, and get out of there for one of the best teams in the NHL right now, he's making a march towards the record. I hope he gets it before the end of the year, because it would kind of suck to have to wait all the way till next season to see him break that record. And with all the other things that are going on, the milestones that people are hitting this year, it would be a really fun storyline for him to finish the season as the all-time leading goal scorer in the NHL. What say you? Email me, oldschoolcards24 at gmail.com. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Do you think he's going to break the record this year? Or is it going to have to wait till next season? Are we all going to have to sit in suspense through the off season for him to come in and get the record into next year? I'd like to hear what you guys have to say about that. So we're going to move on here into the last portion of our show. Here we are into the last segment of the show, the personal pickups on the Old School Cards podcast. I would like to say I didn't want to show them all, but I probably had about 25 cards come in that were anywhere in the $3 to $20 range. Some cool stuff. Some Brady Tkachuk yellow taxi cards from Allure. I did get in a Matthew Tkachuk. He's one of my favorite players in the NHL, Matthew Tkachuk. I got a red PMG of his. All of those cards, they were in the, like I said, $3 to $20 range. I didn't feel like I wanted to bore you guys with a bunch of $3 to $20 pickups. However, the one card that you can see on screen, and like I said earlier in the podcast, it won't be the last time you hear about him. The one card that did come in is my PSA 5 Marcel Dion rookie card. 1971 OPG PSA 5. And that card I figured was worth noting because, as we've talked before, I'm trying to collect the rookie cards or first year cards of certain players. Gordie Howe really is the only one. But of 600 goal scorers. So I have now added another 600 goal scorer to the list, bringing my total up to 5. I have 5 of the 21 600 goal scorers that Marcel Dion I actually bought on eBay from PSA. PSA was selling it. And it was a great price. I paid $115 for that, which is literally right on the money for what his PSA 5 goes for. So I can now check another 600 goal scorer off the list. I don't know who's going to be next. We'll have to wait and see. But I told you it wouldn't be the last time we heard from Marcel Dion, and it wasn't, because I was able to pick up his rookie card for a great price off of eBay, straight from PSA. It came really easy, really fast, safe transaction, and I'm finding that as I find cards and I really like how the process goes with certain sellers when the cards come in, I'm going in and I'm marking those sellers, so when I'm looking for a card, I will search their store first, because I can tell you this Marcel Dion card right here, there's a lot of people selling this card online, but their prices are god awful. Like, there were guys wanting $150, $160, $175, and it's really important. Let this be a lesson to all of us who buy and sell cards. It's very important to know the market of the cards that you're putting up, because I'm not opposed to buying that card from anyone. What I am opposed to is overpaying for a card that is not scarce, it is not rare, and the value is what it is. And how do I check? I'll be it's actually quite simple. Especially with the PSA cards, what I like to do is screenshot the card that I'm looking at. I take that photo in my photo album, I go into Alt, open the picture scan, and I just click on that picture, and Alt pulls up the value of the card. It'll give you most recent transactions, it'll give you cards for sale. And literally, I think that when I did that with the PSA 5 OPG of Marcel Dion, it gave me a current value of like $113. I'm okay with paying $115 for a $113 card. But it really puts it in perspective when people are asking $150, $160 or more for the same card. But this card is beautiful. It's a little off-centered left to right, but I'm quite happy with it. And what I was the most happy about is the quality of the card. The registration is good, and the price was right where it needed to be to earn my business. So just something to think about if you're selling cards. I know they may have a little more value to you, or they may mean more to you, so you want a little bit more for that card. Maybe it's just not time for you to move on from that card. If you can't move that card for what it's selling for, then don't list it. If you're not willing to accept what the current price is on the card, then don't put it up there. I think some people look at it and go, oh, that's probably a whatever card. But the thing is, his card market isn't fluctuating like crazy. He's an old retired player. So it's not like an Ovechkin card or something like that, where what's currently happening in the NHL may influence its card prices. So that means that when people are putting these cards up there, they have to just be making up a price, because if they knew the value of the card or the market value of the card, maybe they'd be a little closer. I mean, I wouldn't even be opposed to, okay, the card's a $115 card. Okay, list it for $125. List it for $130 with offers on down to $110. And then let somebody offer you what it's worth, and then you accept it. But for me, I don't look at these cards and I go, how much, if they want $175, I'm not going to me, I feel it's like you're setting up bad mojo for the transaction. If you list the card for $175 and then I offer you $115, it looks like I'm lowballing you, but I'm actually offering you the market value of the card. But because your price is too high, you're really, I'm not lowballing you. You're trying to take advantage of me, and maybe somebody would pay it, but on a card that's not scarce and not rare, you really need to be pretty close to comps unless something happens. Now, if he were to pass away or something and his prices spiked, I could understand that. But you really have to pay attention to that, guys. Really have to pay attention to it, because I spent my money at PSA, which I thought was kind of random, but they were right on the price. So I'd much rather buy the card from another collector if I could, or something like that, and give my money to somebody who maybe could use it more than PSA. But the reality is, if the price is right, then I'm going to go where the price is right as the buyer. So hopefully you guys can glean some information from that. And I hope you guys enjoyed the show this week. I had a blast making it. We're getting ready for the Four Nations tournament starting up here on the 9th of February. It's going through the 22nd. So we're going to have to get creative with our content for that period of time. But I think we can find some stuff we can put into the show and make 20, 30-minute podcasts out of. So until next time, guys, keep collecting what you love. It's Josh from Old School Cards. I hope you enjoyed episode 15, and I look forward to seeing you guys next week for episode 16.